All right, what is going on, everyone? Welcome to WreckTalk Live. We got a lot to talk about tonight. We've all been wondering who's going to be the next Georgia Tech defensive coordinator. Also in the chat, if you ever had a Commodore 64, I'd like to hear about it. I've been looking to purchase one. So news broke, about 4 days ago? Tyler Santucci will be the next Georgia Tech defensive coordinator. And I had a lot to say about it. I put a video out. I'm sure anyone who listens to the show has heard what I have to say about it. But we're going to go into a little more in depth tonight. I'm going to pull up some comments that were left. I think some people made some good points. There's a lot of, how would you put this? Discrepancy into why was he offered to go to A&M, what position was he offered, what that kind of means. But tonight, briefly talk about the portal. We're going to go over some of these comments that people have been leaving. And I tell you what, how soft is the Georgia fan base? I made one joke under my breath about Georgia, about Saban retiring and 1-5. They rarely comment on the videos. They'll comment in a live show. And two of them came in hot and heavy in the Santucci video, which I just thought was hilarious. You know, they're saying, there was one guy on Twitter that said Kirby's the GOAT now, and I'm like, I don't think you know what greatest of all time means. I don't think you know what you're saying. The words you're using, I don't think you know the definition. But look, hate to see St. Nick go. I get it, though. He's 72. College football has never been more demanding on a coach than it is today. And Mojo might know a little bit better, or he would be the one to ask how much time a Division I Power 5 football coach puts in a week. It has to be minimum like 100 hours a week they're putting into their craft. Let's go through the chat really quick. I'll end the poll when we get through. So if you haven't voted, go ahead and vote. We got 20 votes in. Do you like the hire of Santucci? Does that mean he's related to Stanley Tucci, the actor? I don't know. Do you just contract the name and you're related? Not sure. KS, first one in that I see, says, hell yeah. Janae Thomas defended Jeff Collins so hard, even got the entire Dallas team to pay homage by playing like a Jeff Collins coach team. That's in the running for comment of the year. I'll show you how much I like Jeff Collins. We'll give up 40, and the game will never be close. Well done. Well done. John Burns says, our defense performed at a level so low, I guess there was only one way to go, and that's up. Yeah, you could stay the same, or you could, it's hard to be much worse, so I tend to agree with that. Mech likes the music tonight. Yeah, I went copyright-free tonight. I think we all know why. Mech thinks it sounds like 90s porn music. That would be an interesting porn if that was the music. Doon, 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 doon. Seems a little ominous. J. Bell says, I know a lot of folks are saying he didn't do well with A&M. I assume you're talking about Santucci. But if he can get us to a top 40 defense, like similar to what Duke had, we win the ACC next year. We're going to talk about that. T. Branch, good to see you, says this is a jam. Who haven't we mentioned yet? Mojo says yo-yo. Yo-yo, Mojo. What's going on? Says, I'm kind of liking the vibe of the intro music. It's a nice change up. Yeah, we usually go hard. But I changed it up. I'm actually, really developing a taste and really liking, lo-fi music. Like, lo-fi remixes of otherwise, upbeat songs. It's kind of like sweet and salty. It's a good combination. You wouldn't think they'd go well together, but boy, it gets the juices flowing, doesn't it? No one. T. Brant says no one likes the dude. They played for Brady. That is every player in the Belichick system. I'll tell you this: there's a lot of smoke about Bill Belichick going to the Falcons. That's why I brought it up, and I thought it was fitting because we're all wondering like Santucci without Elko. So I kind of want to talk about like Belichick without Brady, right? Everything I've heard about Belichick is he is a overbearing asshole. And I think Brady had far more to do with that success than Belichick. And, I mean, I don't know that that's that arguable. I mean, he goes, wins a Super Bowl the next year, and the Patriots haven't been competitive since. And I think Belichick ran Brady out of Foxborough, too. I've heard interviews with players where they're like, a rookie comes into camp. I forget the guy's name. And immediately Belichick is dressing down Brady in front of everybody. And he's like looking around like, if he will talk to Brady that way, I can't imagine what life is going to be like for me in New England. So, unlike Belichick, Santucci has not been given the opportunity to prove himself without Elko. So we'll definitely talk about that tonight. Rambling on with Zach Jones says, yo, what's up, Brett? You doing all right, bro? I am doing all right because there's no other way for me to be. It will be all right or it will be all right. I feel like Jeff Goldblum's about to pop out from behind me. Life finds a way. Yeah. I like Jeff Goldblum. And he's someone who's like defied aging too. Isn't he in his 60s now and still looking fantastic? Like him and Tom Cruise. It almost made me want to join Scientology. Like, how old is Tom Cruise? Isn't he about 60? Or is he 60? He might be 60. Yes, he was born in 62, so that would make him 61. Yeah, that I almost joined Scientology. I was like, maybe they, there's some messed up stuff, but if I look like that at 61, it might be worth it. Randy Carson says it's Stan Tucci, not Stan Tucci. Santucci, not Santucci. Have I been spelling it wrong this whole time? You're right. You're absolutely right. Luckily, I didn't put him in the title of the show. Did I do that in my video? I copy pasted his name, I'm pretty sure. Okay, thank God. The right call. I made the right call. I didn't trust myself to know how to spell anything, so I copy pasted his name in the title. First of all, that's kind of why I'm a little irritated off the cut with this, because Santucci is definitely a better name. He needs to change his name to fit my needs. That's how big my ego is. Whose ego is better or bigger? Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers, or WreckTalk? That might be a better poll to do. Derek Coleman, what's going on? Says, I think it's a great hire. Nothing but up from here. That's what I say when I get in bed with the ladies. Yeah, that's not porn music. It's good 80s B movie soundtrack. I agree, T. Brant. Get Rex said, how's it going, everyone? Well, I don't know much about college football coaches. I'm hearing great things about the DC hire. Also love the tech Twitter beef with Oklahoma State fans. Thank you for bringing that up. That is something that C-Dog created. C-Dog stirred the pot. And I had to call him because I was like, he might have told me about it, and I didn't really understand. Like, why are we beefing with Oklahoma State fans? When they came over to watch the game, there's a little Irish pub over here that there's like an enclave of Oklahoma State fans. So I thought we were cool with them. And I stop in, give my 2 cents worth, and then I don't think about it. And then I get a notification. Someone was like, Georgia Tech has been forgotten in Atlanta. I'm like, really? Well, no one knew Oklahoma State well enough to forget them, did they? You ever hear anyone just in college football forums talking about Oklahoma State? No, you don't. Mojo says, I wouldn't be able to give an estimate in hours, but it's all their time in season. Between recruiting and coaching, they're working nonstop. Yeah, and it's gotten even more difficult now between transfer portal, recruiting your own roster year-round, recruiting year-round, in-season coaching your team, out-of-season workouts, and, developing players. It has to be the most intense job you can have, I would say. The only thing that's maybe comparable to it is like a go-get-it CEO or something, but that's it. To be fair, he's had Mac Jones at quarterback. Yeah, but he's also the general manager. Belichick's also the GM. He's the head coach and GM for the Patriots. So that's on him. He chose to draft him and play him. All right, I think we've gotten through everyone here. What does this have to do with the SEC and Nick Saban's legacy? What do you mean? I don't know what you're asking me. All right. First of all, let's talk about portal. I'm worried about Tech in the portal. I know we've gotten some good pieces. We've gotten 2 linebackers in that excite me, that do excite me, between Lightsey, I think's his name, from Georgia, linebacker, and Hamilton from Louisville. Here's the thing, though. We've got 9 players coming in the portal and 22 that have left. So over twice as many players have exited the program in the portal than have entered through the portal. I don't like that. And the thing is, defensive line, we've had 2 come in from the portal, the kid from Furman and the kid from Florida State. We've had 8 leave. So we had four, how do you say this? I don't know how to talk. 4 times as many defensive linemen has left than have come in. And I know that I'm just glossing over the recruiting class. And the reason being is, generally speaking, like, you can't expect them to come in and make an immediate impact. So as far as defensive line, what do we have? Like Makias Scott, Zeke Biggers, and then Sylvan Yanjuan coming in off of a major ACL tear. There's going to have to be some people that step up. So that's why this DC hire was so important, and who we bring in on the staff, because we're going to have to hit the ground running in that week we have in the spring. Have a moment of silence for Nick Saban's legendary career. We can do that. Everyone, we're going to take a moment of silence for the man, Saint Nick, the greatest of all time. Moment of silence for Nick Saban. One in 5. All right. We've never even played football. What are you talking about? The OK State spat was pretty funny with a random team to beef with. It would be great, like, if we caught them in a bowl next year or something. That would be fantastic. I would love it. Apparently part of the beef was that Key didn't – that's what started the beef, was Key didn't rank Oak State in the final, even though there were 16 in all the other polls. Who cares? Key's got other things to worry about than ranking Oklahoma State 16 in his poll. I'm sure Key just was like, had an assistant. He's like, hey, come in here and make a poll and just sign my name on it. It's fine. I got to hire a DC and some defensive staff. Oak State should take notes. We got a coach that's worried about winning and worried about hiring staff. I always get it confused. Is Oklahoma State the team that has Gundy as their coach? Am I right about that? Let me see. Oklahoma State coach. They need to not have, Mike Gundy. Now, this is the funny thing. Mike Gundy is more worried about, making political, posturing off the field and things than he is coaching. So they should be more worried about their coach. I'm a man. I'm 40. How about a tight end that can catch the damn ball? Yeah. All hail Saint Nick and all his holy words. He delivered us great football and showed us the light. I will say it now, and I know Georgia fans are all excited, and I think that's telling. They don't want to have to beat Nick. They'd rather sideswipe him. That's why they're happy right now. They don't have to play Nick. You'll never see another run like that in college football. I'm pretty sure you'll never see another run like that. Rambling on with Zach Jones, member for 3 months, says, say we don't get any more big pieces. Say we don't get any more big pieces with Santucci, not Stantucci. What a jackass for not spelling his name in a way that my dyslexic brain can read. I think we can go as high as 50th or 60th. Our defensive personnel sucks. 6 hardest schedule. Oh, if we don't add anything else in the portal, I think being the 50th or 60th ranked defense is a pipe dream. I really do. That's why I've been shouting from the mountaintops, we got to get people in the portal to help us out on defense. Hold on, what are you saying? WreckTalk is rat poison to Georgia Tech football? Yeah, but I'm yummy rat poisoning, as Nick would say. Yeah, Gundy is OK State's coach. Okay, yeah. What's going on, Slim? Good to see you in here. So that's my thing with the portal. Someone even commented, like, you got to have the Jimmies and Joes in to play football, and we need some help on defensive line and linebacker. So let's go through some comments. And then we'll get into the hirings. I don't know if y'all have seen, but Drake May has come out of the hole that he was holed up in after he suffered a loss to Georgia Tech. Not the quarterback, the commenter. This is what he has to say. Wait a second, why is it not showing? Why? Oh, I know why. This is what he had to say. First, David Turk, longtime viewer of the channel, says, wonder how North Carolina didn't get this guy. Instead, they settled for JC. I think he means Jeff Collins. No complaints here, just curious. And I think that's a good... Let me end the poll real quick, by the way. I totally forgot about the poll. In the poll, 94% of you... Okay, somehow math got done wrong because these percentages add to 99%. But 94% say Santucci's a good hire. 5% say no out of 38 votes. Maybe there's a rounding error there. So, yeah, I think that's the general mood of the Tech fan base. This is a good hire for Tech. And I agree with that, even though I do have some reservations. But I do think that's a good point. Like, North Carolina hires Jeff Collins when they could have had Santucci. What's up with that? And then Drake May comes in because Collins is a way better DC. Jeff Collins was a good DC like 10 years ago. And they're going to find out that they're going to mess around and find out with him. I just thought that was hilarious. Mac is a lame duck coach. That being the case, the best Mac can do is the minister of BS. Yes, I agree. Well, and then Drake May says, well, he actually has talent at UNC, unlike Tech. Yeah, and what has North Carolina done with the talent that they have? Absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. The last time they won the ACC was 1980. Most of us, including myself, weren't even born. There's no one alive to remember it. It's like the Titanic. Everyone who's alive to remember it has died. It was that long ago. So, yeah, you don't have a talent problem at North Carolina. You have an intelligence and coaching problem at North Carolina. Now, someone schooled me, coffee killer. If you've watched like my live game streams, you know my aversion to condiments. And he has informed me that mayo is a building block of ranch dressing. And that's shaken me to the core. I've got to rethink everything now. T Branch, we had a moment of silence. Praise Saban and his holy works. Amen. And then one guy I thought had a good point, and it's along the lines of thinking that I had. Dusty Road 76 says, look at the linebackers and defensive ends that were on roster in 2022 that were gone in 2023. Thacker could not overcome the loss of Thomas Ely and a second-round draft pick, DN, plus the losses to transfer. It's the Jimmies and Joes in 2023, not Thacker. I think that's partly true. He's a smart coach in 2022 and dumb in 2023. That, I think, is the best point, because a lot of people, when they look at Thacker, they're like, yes, he's a genius in 2022, but he's the worst defensive coordinator of all time in 2023. And I just don't think that both of those things can be true. I think he's young. He's a little bit green. He probably wasn't going to be the only defensive coordinators that were going to overcome the losses we took on defense were far more experienced than Thacker, but I don't think Thacker's an awful defensive coordinator. He says he's not related to Thacker. That's suspicious that he said that without me asking. That makes me think he is, in fact, related to Thacker. I went on Sea-Dog's video. Pulled a comment from him. Rob Rife, 2967, says, rumor is that Elko offered Santucci the A&M job, but Santucci wanted to make a name for himself without everyone assuming it's Elko making it work. Now, I would say you have to be more specific with that, and we're going to talk about it. He was offered what job at A&M? That makes all the difference to me. He says as far as Coleman goes, most of the guys on the DL were guys he had recruited and coached in the past, and they still didn't play well, so I think it makes sense to clean house. Yeah, I think it's unfortunate. We're going to talk about that as well with Marco Coleman. Unless he's moved to an analyst role, I think it's highly unlikely. He stays on staff with Tech, and someone will pick him up to be their defensive line coach. All right, also, PC Toddy says, it's official, and Pope is the outside linebackers and defensive end coach, so 2-4 is quite possibly what we're going to see. Now, what he's referring to is Santucci likes to run, or I don't know what Santucci likes to run. He's referring to the type of defense Tech might run under him, though. So there we go. I'm going to roll up to the comments here. Jesus Christ, what's even real anymore? I don't know, man. What is reality? We finished fourth this year with a brand new offense, new OC, new head coach. We have the talent to win the ACC, but our D has a step up big. Yeah, but what happened on offense? We brought in Haynes King. We brought in a ton of wide receivers. We had a big offensive line, the Scaglione in the portal. We made moves on the offensive line. We brought in a ton on offense, is what I'm saying. And I'm not seeing that this year with the defensive side. I'm not seeing similar moves in the portal to make me all that confident in the defense going into this year. 2-4, as in 2 to 4 touchdowns allowed per quarter. No, as in 2 down linemen. We'll talk about it. So first, let's talk about Kyle Pope. So we've hired Kyle Pope. Kyle Pope does not have a ton of coaching experience. He's from – is there anyone who lives in Alabama in the chat or that's familiar with Alabama? I guess it's pronounced Sycauga or Salcuga, Alabama. Is where he's from. He played at Jacksonville State, which is not far right off the west side of Georgia there. Jacksonville State. He played from 2011 to 2014 there. He was a defensive line guy, or he was a defensive lineman. Then he went to Liberty and actually coached linebackers at Liberty in 2019, and he's been at Memphis ever since. Been their defensive line coach and their run game coordinator. So that's interesting. Also, something of note, and a lot of people probably have never heard of this school, he coached at Presbyterian, their defensive line. I think they're what was considered Division III. Like, they're under Furman, but they're kind of a powerhouse in that level of play. And the only reason I know about Presbyterian is when I was at quarterback camp at Furman. We would go there over the summer. Their quarterbacks coach was talking to me, and I was trying to sound super impressive, and I did not sound super impressive. He was just like, "What are you talking about, dude? You have no clue what you're talking about." Now, I don't see that Pope, and I misspoke in my video, I don't see that he really has any deep-rooted Georgia ties. I imagine he has some Alabama ties, though, and there's a lot of talent in the state of Alabama. I don't think Key would bring him on staff if he didn't feel like he could recruit. Rambling On says, agree, the defense scares me a little bit, but I've heard Santucci is a good recruiter, so I hope he can make up a few pieces. Yeah, I agree with that. Alabama has decided to not kiss their sisters for a week in honor of Saban leaving. Well, that's nice. Yeah, that's nice. So I'm kind of I just don't know enough about Kyle Pope. I know that we need we need something on the defensive line. So it's good to see we've hired two. There's one home run hire here, and it's not Santucci. I think Jess Simpson is an absolutely A-plus home run hire for Georgia Tech. Guy from Marietta, Georgia. Coached at Buford for 20 years. If you've been living under a rock, Buford is like premier powerhouse football in the state of Georgia. He coached there from 95 to 2015. And he won 10 state championships at Buford. 10. He was their DC from 95 to 04. He three-peated in that span. He won a state title as their DC in 01, 02, and 03. All right. Then he was their head coach from 05 to 2015, and he three-peated 2 more times. So in his time at Buford, Jess Simpson three-peated 3 times. 3 times this man won 3 state titles in a row. There needs to be a name for that. Like, what would that be? Like the Triple Crown, the Triple Crown squared of Georgia state titles. And he's not the only one on staff that has ties to Buford. If Tech can get a shoe in the door in Buford, that's good. And this whole staff has been constructed to recruit this state. We haven't seen that pay dividends yet, but it's early on. I feel like it's kind of like turning a boat. That thing don't turn immediately. It takes a little bit of time. We've turned the wheel. We'll see the boat turn soon. I think the 2025 class is where you would really see the largest jump in recruiting if everything on the field goes well. Now, he's also coached in the NFL. So he's coached for the Falcons twice. He was a defensive analyst for them and a defensive line coach. I think that is important as well. So not only has he coached high school at the highest level, I'm not saying the Falcons are the highest level in the NFL. They're not. But having experience in the NFL for kids that have NFL aspirations, which they all do, is a big plus. He was also the assistant head coach and defensive line coach at Miami under who did they just hire at Duke? Manny Diaz. And what Manny Diaz was not in a head coach at Miami, he was as a defensive guy. Manny Diaz is a fantastic defensive coordinator. And he was the co-DC at Duke under Santucci. So to me, that brings up, were these hires keys, or were we like, we had pretty much already worked things out with Santucci, and these were the guys he wanted to hire? Certainly, I think Jess Simpson is that. I'm really excited about Jess Simpson coming in. What's going on, Rusty? In honor of Nick, let me see. Thanks for the $5. Oh.
I don't give a piss about nothing but the Tide.
Hold on, my thing cut off. Let me switch screens here.
Nothing but the Tide, baby.
Don't give a piss about nothing but the Tide.
I love America and I love the Tide, baby. And I love Will and Adele.
That's right. I
Don't
love
give a piss about piss but the Tide.
Tide, go get them. Tide, go take them down.
Oh, boy. That's fantastic. That's fantastic. I will say this. When you see a black guy with a big old dip in, you're in some backwoods area, buddy. Some show enough backwoods area. Mike Jones says, I don't give a piss, man. Don't give a piss nothing about the Tide. You know, and they get to act that way. I mean, they've got, 7 natties to rest on. I love America, and I love the Tide. America. Yeah, God almighty, that guy had a bigger dip in than I've ever had in. There's a lot I can learn from him, I think. Yeah, so Jess Simpson, 10 state titles, 3-peats 3 times throughout his career at Buford. I think it's a great hire. Obviously, he works well with Santucci. Now, let's talk about Santucci. And here's the thing that I'm seeing with him. I brought up in my video, why didn't Elko bring him with him? And people have a few theories on this. They say they've heard, they know. This is kind of like in Band of Brothers with Lieutenant Spears. There was all these rumors, but no one actually saw any of this happen. Did he kill prisoners of war, etc. One thing they'll say is that he was in fact offered the defensive coordinator job at Texas A&M, and he turned it down. And just for me, that doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense. Why would he turn it down and then come to Tech? Now, part of this is I'll feel like I know more when I know how much he's being paid at Tech. And then they'll say, well, he didn't want to be DC at Texas A&M because he wanted to show that he could do it without Elko. That doesn't really make sense to me either. He would have gone to A&M. He would have been one of the highest paid DCs in the country, probably. He would have made way more than he would at Tech. He would have gone with his mentor. And if they had dominant defenses at A&M, he would have gotten a Power 5 job in 2 years or so. That is least likely to me. None of that really makes sense to me. People are saying Kelly Quinlan said that he was offered and that he's a good recruiter. I'll defer to him on the recruiting. I don't know about what he was offered. The thing that makes more sense to me is that he was offered a position group, like probably to be the linebackers coach there, and he didn't want to take a demotion. So he stayed at Duke to see what his offers were. That does make sense to me. He's going to get a chance to come to Tech, be a DC, build a defense. I think that's most likely what happened. But that still brings up the question, why did Elko not want him to be his DC? And I think I've been a little too critical of that. But here's what I'll say. I think a lot of Tech people will look at this as like grand slam home run hire. I don't think it's that. I think it's a good hire. I don't think that it's necessarily a grand slam home run hire. I still think Elko was all up in that defense, had a lot to do with it. And look, does that mean he can't come to Tech and be successful without Elko? No. It just means that I've got to see it on the field this year. That's all. Santucci was making $375,000 a year at Duke, so between $400 and $500K, no more than $550. You talking about what he's going to make at Tech? I think it will be considerably more than that. I think he will make something comparable to what Buster's making, if not more. I could be wrong, but that's what I think. I think he'll make somewhere around $750 or possibly more than that a year. So, what do y'all think about the Santucci hire? Does any of that concern you? I want to see in the comments. That guy worships a Nick Saban altar? Holy crap, dude. Well, you know what? If someone won like 6 or 7 natties at Tech, I would also worship them. We would create a religion around them. All hail Key. Key's the man, everyone else is Dookie. Something we would have some chant like that, we would say in a religious setting. Santucci isn't going to be able to do nothing unless we pull in 3 more on the defensive line, 2 more at linebacker, 3 DBs. And that's the other thing we haven't talked about. I guess, from what I'm seeing, okay, we need to hire a linebacker coach and a defensive back coach. Now, on the graphic, it says he's the DC and linebacker coach. I don't know how common practice that is, maybe, but when Thacker was the DC, we had like Coach Boogie under him, and then we had Coach Scherer under him, right? Like every position group had their own coach. Maybe they'll do that because he is a fantastic linebacker coach. That's without question. So maybe they save some money and pay him more because they're not paying a linebacker coach. You know, Pope is going to be the edge rusher coach and the outside linebacker coach. And so let's address that too. In the From the Rumble Seat article, the A&M job would probably pay $1 million. Yes. And that's why I'm not so inclined to believe, well, it's not even that I'm not inclined to believe. I flat out don't believe he turned down the DC job at A&M. I don't think there's any way that that's true. Just because he wanted to be like Shaq with the Lakers and win without Kobe. You know, when you're talking that kind of money. Yeah, he would have been paid at least $1 million. He would have been one of the highest paid DCs in the country. There's no way that your moral fibers are going to wrestle that money out of your hands. Derek says, I'm not worried about it. Sometimes change is just the right recipe. Sure. We need a linebackers guru, the holy, what now? Their holy shoot. I don't know. Holy shoot. Do you mean holy shit? We need a linebackers guru there. Well, yeah. That's what I said. I said it in the video. That being said, we definitely are going to have to hire a defensive backs coach. But in the From the Rumble Seat article, they mentioned, you know, I haven't look at what defenses they ran at Duke. Evidently, they're in a 4-2-5, 4 defensive linemen, 2 linebackers, 5 defensive backs. So 2 corners, 2 safeties, 2 linebackers, you know, 2 edge rushers, 2 defensive tackles. Well, geez, why do you have to be so aggressive toward me? You know I'm sensitive. You know I'm sensitive, Mike. Okay? I also mentioned in the video, like, defense has changed as much as offense. You know, defenses and defensive schemes in college football have had to change to keep up with what offenses are doing. And really, it's that the pace that offenses has run and the speed of the game has increased, right? People like to see points scored. So you've seen defensive schemes change to be more speed driven and a little less hard hitting, which makes sense. Let's check out Duke's defense. I might just commit an entire video to that. Maybe anabolic steroids for the linebackers. Well, you got to take testosterone too, and then you got to take estrogen blockers, and then you get varicose veins. By the way, if you look at like Mr. Olympia competitions, they've taken so much testosterone, steroids, and like everything else that they have distended abdomens. They look like they're pregnant. Anyways, all I'm asking for is a defense that can tackle. Yes. And that's what I don't like about this 4-2-5. And I don't even know what defense he likes to run. I'm sure Elko kind of dictated what defense they were going to run. People have also talked about running a 2-4, which maybe is the thinking there. Like we kind of have 50% on the defensive line and 50% at linebacker. So let's put them together, make a linebacker DN combo. Is that the thinking with that? So when you run a 2-4, what you're kind of doing is instead of playing defensive ends or edge rushers, you have linebacker defensive end hybrid players. Say what do you want to win? Dedicate yourself. You're just confusing me. I have to ignore that for a minute. And I just feel like that is a little bit too complicated. Like you're trying to outsmart the room a little bit. I would much rather Tech as a defensive scheme run something a little more basic, fundamental, run a straight 4-3, and just focus on tackling and covering. We don't need to do, overly complicated schematic stuff, right? A 2-4 makes the old school in me come out, give me a 4-3 or 3-4. And yeah, that might just be my age talking and bias. I don't really like that. I don't even like 3-3-5 stack or whatnot. And really what they ran was like a faux 3-3-5 out of a 4-2-5. So this is kind of like in music, like double sharps, double flats. Is this a whole step? Who knows? The abdominal issues from HGH, test and roids were used all the way back in the 50s. Yeah. Our issues weren't scheme. We did not tackle, teach the boys to hit again. I agree, but I think that kind of screams you need a more basic fundamental defense. That's something finger tape could never understand. Yeah. And here's the thing. All I care about is winning. Whatever you need to do on defense to win, that's what I want. If I was smart enough to scheme all this stuff up in a way that worked, I wouldn't be on YouTube. I'd be on the sideline. So whatever you want to do to win, that's what I want. It will be interesting to see. Now, I do think under Thacker and going back to Collins, we were committed to running, a particular scheme in variant of. Now, I know that's a big word, Mike Jones. You might just want to hit pause for a second. But in variant of our personnel. And we just kind of tried to force a round peg in a square hole. That isn't going to work either. I doubt we have the flat-out speed and fundamental tackling right now to run this 4-2-5, 2-4, these other type of defenses. So I would rather have more defensive linemen and more linebackers, like in a 4-3, to compensate for that a little bit. The strongest part of our defense, even though they didn't play well last year, if you just look at pure athleticism and play, is our defensive backfield, our defensive backs. So I would much rather run a 4-3, have more DLs and LBs out there, and just swarm the ball. That's what I want. 10,000 calorie a day. That has nothing to do with the distended belly. T-Branch is right. That's a straight. I mean, they've been eating 10,000 calories a day forever. for those competitions. That has to do with a side effect when you take HGH and testosterone. And I've been looking into it. I want to bulk up. I want to be The Rock instead of a fat guy. You hold water too. You hold water, and your estrogen jacks up. So one theory is that your intestines kind of swell, and that makes your abdominal swell. Now, that's schematically what I think. We'll see. I think it's going to be dictated by what we can get in the portal. The Rock is a major user. Well, The Rock also denies that he uses steroids, kind of, which is curious to me. For anyone that needs to know, you don't look like The Rock. I don't care what your genetics are at 50-something. Doesn't happen. And by the way, I don't have a problem with anyone. If your career is your physique, I could care less whether you take steroids. Don't lie to me about it and then try and sell me some natural program to make me look like you, though. You can see Rec turning into a reacher. Okay. So, I would probably adjust my grade of the Santucci hire to an 85 now. If I'm just considering, like, tech. Yeah, the 4-3 isn't as popular. Everyone just runs a nickel defense. Right, and people want more defensive backs and more defensive back linebacker type players, like hybrid players like that, to counteract the speed at which offenses run today. That's why a lot of people run the nickel. And these 3-5 and 4-2 stuff. RG3 just posted on Twitter and said the Cowboys need to hire Coach Prime. Get out of here, man. They love to ignore 4 and 8. What I don't understand with all that is, like, he did a decent job at Colorado. Why can't that be good enough? That's not good enough for, like, these Dion Sanders fans. You have to say that he's a top 5 coach in the league. Anything other than that, and that they're going to make the playoffs every year with him, is unacceptable. So I just ignore all of those idiots. Like, Tech is more likely to make the playoffs than Colorado. And that doesn't mean I think Tech is making the playoffs. I think they're more likely than Colorado. Please hire Prime. That's such a Jerry Jones move. Georgia Tech needs The Rock to be the strength coach. Why? So we could all fail our drug test and we'd have water boys playing linebacker. Yeah. And then we could have, who's that short comedian? Kevin Hart. We could have him slapping people with tortillas with water in their mouth or something. You can't ignore this idiot. You can't ignore this idiot, sir. You talking about yourself or Mike? Rob Parker was right about RG3. Oh, are you talking about Dion people? Abolish drug test? I think Prime is a great coach. I don't. And I'll tell you why I don't think Prime is a great coach. One, he has little to no experience. I mean, he has a little bit of experience. The only head coaching experience, what he has 3-4 years of head coaching experience. Okay? And then he demotes his offensive coordinator, which was the only thing on Colorado's team that was worth watching was their offense. So to me, that doesn't compute with being a great coach. Great coaches don't usually demote coaches that are doing a really good job. And I think that's going to hurt him, by the way. I think he's not likely to get really good coaches come coach for him now, because if you don't jive with Shador, he's going to fire you. Prime is a terrible coach. Me, of course, yeah. I don't know if he's a terrible coach. I mean, I'm more apt to believe that than he's a great coach, though. Like I said, why can't it just be okay that you say, man, 4 and 8, you made improvement, you're going in the right direction with Colorado? Why can't that be good enough for these idiots? And that's why no one takes any of them seriously. I don't know why RG3 would say that. Like, if you're RG3, would you want to go play for Dion right now? I doubt it. Prime is a hype man, not a recruiter, not a coach. I 100% agree with that. He is a hype man. And financially, now I'll say this, financially for Colorado, home run hire. Home run hire. They'll be extraordinarily profitable as long as he's there. As far as what happens on the football field, I think it will always be lacking, though. Prime is about Prime, and his sons can respect wanting the best for your sons, but he's not going to be there longer than another 2 years. Prime is a team mom with a whistle. Wow. By the way, Slim, do you remember Jess Simpson when he was on staff for you at Miami? I think it was 2021. He was your defensive line coach and assistant head coach. I also want to bring up this quote from Key. He was on. How was Jess Simpson for you? Did you like him? Did you have good defensive line play when Jess Simpson was your defensive line coach in 2021? A team mom in the Hall. Yeah, he's Team Mom Hall of Fame. We play Colorado in 2025. Chances he's still their coach then? You know, when he was hired, a lot of people brought up that he was only there for Shedeur, and as soon as Shedeur went to the NFL, he would go somewhere else. He would either follow Shedeur or he wouldn't be the Colorado coach anymore. And I was like, I don't know about that, man. Because to me, it doesn't make sense. But here's the thing that I didn't calculate is that Dion often does things that don't make sense. Give me 1 second. Oh, man. Yeah, Dion often does things that don't make sense. And him demoting his offensive coordinator because he didn't like how he was coaching Shedeur falls in line with he's just there for Shedeur, to me. He's in the Hall of Fame as a player, not a coach. Yeah, I mean, I think people like him as a player and are like, that means he's going to be a good coach. That's rarely the case, by the way. How good of a player was Nick Saban? How good of a player was Kirby Smart? How good of a player was, we were talking about Bill Belichick. The only coach, there's two coaches that come to mind that were, well, there's only one that was an elite player and an elite coach, and that's Steve Spurrier. It's the only one I can think of. Harbaugh was drafted. I don't think he had much of an NFL career, but Harbaugh might fall in that as well. Other than that, I can't really think of people that were really good players and also really good coaches. Head coaches. Dion has health issues, and he is 58, not 48. Did I say he was 48? He's got some circulation issue. I know that. Dan Campbell with the Lions. Yeah, that's... Well, the Lions are doing well this year. I think you'd have to wait and see if he's an elite head coach, though, right? Great players make bad coaches and executives. See Magic, yeah. Or see Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan was an awful, owner. Anyways, I got off topic again because I killed a lot of brain cells a while ago. This is the quote I wanted to know what you guys thought about. Key was on 680 The Fan, the radio station here in Georgia, if you're not familiar. Key was asked about the fluidity of the situation for hiring his defensive staff, And this was his answer. Mike Ditka. Mike Ditka is an interesting case, though. Because what was great about the Bears? Their defense. And that, I don't think, had a lot to do with Ditka. Ditka was an asshole. And his ego didn't allow him to mesh with that DC. I don't remember what his name was. Like, didn't they get in a fight? They straight got in a fist fight on the sideline. I am addicted to Diet Coke. I've never made excuses for that. I'll probably have kidney stones tomorrow. But this was Key's response. He said, yeah, I would not say that it is fluid. I would say it is not like water. It is more like a slow can of oil just kind of dripping out. We are really, really settling into what we want to do, and I'm excited about the staff we are putting together. Here in the next few days, we should have everything completed. I have taken my time in this thing to really get this thing right and make sure these kids have the best opportunity to win and play really good football. Oh, you feel me? You're also addicted to Diet Coke or Diet Mountain Dew or something. The first part of that is interesting to me. I really think that Santucci was not Key's first choice for DC. I don't think it would take as long as it has from bowl game to now to hire Santucci. So I don't think it was his first choice. The last part of that, I 100% like. He said, I have to get this thing right. I said it in the video. You can't miss on this set of defensive hires. We can't get back into this merry-go-round coaching carousel of firing and hiring DCs. Ask Slim about that a la their offense. It's going to kill your recruiting. It's going to kill your defense's ability to play. Like, you've got to hit on these hires. So if it took this long to get the hire right, and it is the right hire, I'm 100% for it. But if this hire doesn't work out and you took this long to make it, it's going to look even worse because he demoted Thacker midseason, retained him when he could have got another DC, etc. I don't know. Jordan grew that franchise really well. I sold it for many multiples of what I bought it, or he sold it for many multiples of what I bought it for. I know they were never a powerhouse team. Him and Charles Barkley actually don't talk anymore because of that. Charles Barkley said Jordan only surrounded himself with yes men that were never going to be honest with him about what he needed to do. And I agree with that. Jordan was the greatest basketball player of all time. People that want to say LeBron's in that stratosphere, I think, are wrong. The game was way different when Jordan played. And now I'm off in basketball talk, I know. Go watch the playoff series, and there were many of them, that Michael Jordan had with the bad boys Detroit Pistons. And you ask, think about your favorite player today, and would they score as many points when defense was allowed to be played like that? First of all, you could hand check then. Dennis Rodman carried. Dennis Rodman was the most dominant defensive player the NBA's ever seen. Dennis Rodman was a curious guy. Personally, he married Carmen Electra while wearing a wedding dress, went to North Korea. I mean, that was after his playing days. But I'll tell you what Shaq said. Dennis Rodman would come in 10 minutes before the game, when you were supposed to be there an hour before the game, eating like chicken and rice in a bowl. And you couldn't be mad at him because he would get you 20 rebounds a night like clockwork. The most interesting man in the world, he might be. Yeah. He was insane. The Hornets have sucked, never have been good. He just made money off of them. Trae Young would have had bad boy Pistons in a blender. I'm just saying, like, Michael Jordan scored like 40, 50 points a night with that style of defense. Put him in today's league. How many points does he score? And then put LeBron in Jordan's league, and how many points does he score? Michael Jordan, he was like 10 times he was the scoring leader or something, And he was also all NBA defensive player of the year. So he was the best offensive player and the best defensive player. He's the greatest of all time. That's all I'm saying. I don't know how we got derailed. I've never talked about basketball, but I watched basketball when it was entertaining to watch back in the day. Now it's just like you can walk your dog. It's not an issue. I can't remember the last time I saw an offensive foul, like a charge called. That just doesn't happen. Jordan also got swept a bunch in the first round. Well, I mean, how many times has LeBron been to the finals and lost? How many times has Jordan been to the finals and lost? Basketball does suck now. Anyways, those are my thoughts on the Santucci thing. I think it'll work out at the end of the day. I think what I do like, setting aside my own kind of biases with it, is he was mentored under one of the best defensive minds in the country right now. He's bringing his guys over. He's young. That's big. If Kelly Quinlan is correct about him being, a good recruiter, we might be twice as good on defense next year, which is what is going to be required to be competitive next year. We got to go from 120th, overall defense to at least 60th. We'll see if he can do it. Rodman was specifically brought to the Bulls to improve their physicality. He was a major part of those championships and was a major factor on every team he played for. He's greatness. Yes, aside from his rebounds, if there was a loose ball, Rodman got it. He came up with it. For the lack of discipline he had in his own personal life, it was the opposite on the basketball court. Like, you weren't going to out-hustle Dennis. The only true sport left is live Atlanta wrestling. That's funny. Duke doesn't have any players from the defense in the portal. Hopefully he can pull a bunch of transfer guys. That'd be great. WRECTalk vid. Appreciate it, man. I wish basketball – the last time I really watched basketball was when the Miami Heat were in the finals with the Detroit Pistons. And here's the other thing that I think's disrespectful. Anytime you hear greatest of all time NBA players, see you, Zach. Who do you hear? You hear Michael, Kobe, LeBron, Shaq. Why do you never hear Tim Duncan's name called? Tim Duncan is the winningest basketball player of all time. Won more games than any basketball player. Big fundamental. How many championships did he win? 6 or 5? The Antonio Spurs don't win a single championship without Tim Duncan. Guy from Wake Forest. I think he's from the Virgin Islands. He's certainly the best power forward that's ever played. What was he, 6'11"? Larry Bird. Oh, of course. I forgot. Larry Bird. I have a blind spot for Boston, so I forgot him. NBA sucks. Georgia Tech basketball sucks. Nothing to watch. They're getting better, though. They're getting better because Duncan wasn't flashy. All the credit has gone to Pop. Duncan didn't even trash talk. Yeah, Duncan didn't trash talk. Duncan, most people go to get he was a 2-time NBA MVP, by the way. Most people go to get their MVP in a suit, all sorts of, Louis Vuitton, whatever. Tim Duncan picked up his NBA MVP in shorts and a large baggy shirt. Just said thanks to his teammates and walked off. You know how embarrassing it is, or how embarrassing it would have to be a player getting dominated and the guy doesn't say a word to you? What do? Too young to remember the pistol? You talking about Pistol Pete? Jordan and Bird are co-MVPs of Trash Talk. Bird was great. Bird would get mad if you had a white guy guard him. He'd be like, "You got a white guy guarding me? How disrespectful." Yeah. I think Kobe was pretty good too. Anyways. All right, let's see. We've been on for about, is that 2 hours we've been on? No, an hour and 20. I think that'll be the show, guys. I don't just want to ramble on about things I don't really know, but those are my thoughts. I think Jess Simpson is a fantastic hire. It's the hire I'm most excited about. I think Santucci's a good hire. I think it's a good hire. I think we will be better on defense next year for sure, but that's going to be contingent on who you can pull in out of the portal. All right? And for years after that, you got to develop guys out of recruiting. You're seeing teams now that are caught in another merry-go-round of just replacing what they lost due to graduation or portal with other portal players. And so every year they're having to solely rely on the portal to be successful the next year. So you have to have a balance. You have to plug some holes with the portal, but you also got to be turning guys in over and developing kids out of your recruiting class to plug those holes too. So Kobe should have followed his Mamba mentality and stayed on the ground like the snake and not gone up in the air. Excited to see what Santucci cooks up. Me as well, man. I hope you all have a great night. Hope you all have a great week at work. And if no one's told you,